Cup and the league all to be won. Everyone knows there's a job to be done, and with a team so fine, I'm proud they're mine. We'll be singing this song. For real bars of Berlin Athletic, and now we are on song. For real bars of Berlin Athletic, and we'll go marching on.
The Dunfermline Athletic Former Players Association podcast is sponsored by Starnut Apparel. Affordable and stylish clothing born on the terraces. Just head to www.starnutapparel.co.uk.
Pars fans, welcome once again to Walking Down the Holbeath Road. I'm your host Mikey Mokkiewicz, and as always in each episode we'll be bringing you interviews with the legends who've helped write the story of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club, from unforgettable goals to iconic matches, from tales of triumphs to moments that define careers. We're diving deep into the rich history of DAFC, and together we'll relive the glory days of East End Park, celebrating the players, coaches and managers who have left their mark in the black and white stripes. In this episode, we're doing something a little different. Instead of a player or a manager, we've sat down with a former director of Dunfermline Athletic. Blair Morgan joined the board in the mid-1980s and played a key role in the club's rise to the Premier League under Jim Leishman. Beyond his time at East End Park, he was also a FIFA licensed agent, negotiating multi-million-pound deals and representing the likes of Gordon Durie, Graham Souness, Duncan Ferguson and Alex McLeish. We'll be diving into his experiences behind the scenes, what it meant to be a director of his local football team, his involvement in the infamous EastEnders record, which he co-wrote and produced along with his son Stephen, and the drama of 1990 and the controversial departure of Jim Leishman as first-team manager. So grab your scarf, settle in and join me as we take a trip through the Pars history on Walking Down the Holbeath Road with Blair Morgan. So welcome, episode 37 of Walking Down the Holbeath Road, and our guest is Blair Morgan. How are we, Blair?
Extremely well, thanks, Mikey. It's nice to see you.
Brilliant, and thanks for joining us on the podcast.
You're welcome. We'll see how it goes, and then you can tell me if it's worth it or not.
Brilliant, good man. Right, we'll start off with some warm-up questions. So, the most memorable game of football you've ever watched?
A game at East End Park. It was a freezing cold day. We had to beat, I think it was Partick Thistle by a few goals to stay up. We beat them, I think it was beaten 10-1 or 9-1 or something. And that was fantastic. I was very young at the time. My brother-in-law played for the Pars, played for the reserves. He was a centre-back, and Harry Colville was the captain in the first team. And Jim Smith, my brother-in-law, married my older sister. And he's a lovely guy, and he was a very classy centre-back. Harry Colville, it's a good set. It was a stopper is what was needed, but Jim Smith, my brother-in-law, played football, and it was great. He was an age. He had a motorbike. He took me on a motorbike, which was a great thing because I've never gone on a motorbike since. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. When it was a long time ago.
Is that the famous game Harry Melrose scored 6?
Probably, yeah.
I think it was. Yeah.
That was there. Harry Melrose, George Peebles, Charlie Dixon. Alex Smith played. I think Ron Mailer was the captain then.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of people think that I was a Johnny come lately, but I supported the Pars before most people that was criticising me. And the good thing was my brother-in-law played in the reserves, and they were in the East of Scotland League. So I went down to Chirnside, to Gala, to Eyemouth, you name it. Everywhere they played, he took me with him. I was a wee lad, so.
Brilliant.
It was great. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And that was me totally hooked.
Superb. We'll cover more about your early life just shortly. Next up, you were a FIFA licensed agent, which we'll go into later.
Yeah.
Who is the best player you represented as an agent?
Oh, that is a very difficult question to answer. The best player.
In your eyes.
Yeah, in my eyes, there's the thing. Well, somebody like Tom Boyd, who's a fantastic professional, a great captain, a good leader, he's a really good person. I also acted for Graham Souness, who I love Graham because he just did not take prisoners, and he was good. I acted for Gavin Ray, who became a really good player, and funnily enough, his manager at Dundee called me in to say, I've done a deal to send him to Brechin because I don't think he's good enough. And I said, he's an excellent player. Gavin went on to play for Scotland, of course, and is a good, solid midfield player. And we turned down the move to Brechin, and Gavin eventually emigrated to Australia, but he's come back. He's come back, and he's back in Manchester. And my youngest daughter lives in Manchester, so I'll go down and see Gavin, see how he is, see what he's up to. But he was a good player as well. Another player that I liked a lot is Mark Burchell. He's a striker. He was the quickest player I've ever seen. It was fantastic. He wasn't quite big enough, unfortunately, so the high ball was out, but he was a good player. I could go through a lot of the foreign players as well, but I acted for a lot of players.
Brilliant. All internationals, like you say, as well, so they all done okay.
Yeah. Players, they're all good. And the fact that they chose to use me tells you that they wanted a lawyer to represent them, rather than a Johnny come lately. So that was fine. Yeah.
Brilliant. Good stuff.
That.
Throughout your career, you've visited a lot of brilliant stadiums, I'm sure. What one would you say was the best?
Oh, are we including East End Park?
Of course.
That has to be it. And the improvements that were done turned it into a first class stadium. I think that was that was done after I left, by the way. But I think it's a super stadium. I can walk there. I just walk there and walk back and take all my grandkids. It's great. Other stadium. I've been to France, Italy, Holland, doing business. A lot of nice stadia. See architects get a master plan and they work to it, but I still East End Park will do for me. I think Rangers and Celtic both got nice stadia, probably up there with the best in Europe, but I'll stick with East End Park, Mikey.
East End Park's home, isn't it?
I think so.
What do you prefer, the old East End Park or the current East End Park?
I prefer the current East End. I think it's fine. I've got no problem about the way they've constructed it. When I was at school, I used to stand at the Cowdenbeath end, and then at half time we would go around to the home end. You can't do that anymore.
No.
But that was. I liked the new. I think they did a good job turning us into a modern stadium, but the best in a Premier League stadium without doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it's back in the Premier League at some point soon.
Let's hope so.
Best piece of memorabilia you've collected over the years from your time in football?
I'm actually not a memorabilia collector, but I always remember I had quite a lot of jerseys that I collected, but I gave them to the supporters club. Do you remember
Marvin's shop.
It was Marvin, yeah.
Yeah, the fundraising.
Marvin, some pretty good strips that I've collected. I used to, after doing a deal, say I'll get a strip, and I remember getting one from Graham Souness when he was at Benfica when he left. And I said, I'll go and get my strip. So, and he went and he came out, and I said, this is the second 11, it was the black strip.
Right.
Benfica playing red.
Yeah.
He said, there's no red ones there, but thanks, yeah, wonderful. I'm trying to think. I don't really have too much memory, but I could go in a drawer and that's it. Plus my wife likes a tidy house, so.
You always find that with people I've spoken to, it's either one end of the spectrum, like they collect loads of things, or they've got nothing. Yeah. There's no in between, like.
Well, what I'm left with at the moment is my son-in-law, John Potter. I've got John's strip from St Mirren, from Clyde, from Dunfermline, and I've kept him, but that's family, so that's different. I'll give them to his sons quite soon.
Yeah.
And I'd play that out, that'll cheer my wife up. Measure him.
We'll touch on John later on. And final question for this bit. The A side of the EastEnders record or Gregor Abel's B side?
Oh, there's no question. No question. I know the stadium announcer prefers the B-side, but no, it's fine. Gregor was great, and I've seen him at the games occasionally, and he asked me for royalties, and I told him to get stopped. I said, you get exactly the same as me. But I've actually got a gold disc that I've got in my office in the house. I'll show you later. And I got one for my son and one for me. And I mean, they're in a room in the house. Nobody sees them, but we've got them. So
it's a great thing to have, though, isn't it?
Okay, absolutely.
Superb. Right, we'll get kicked off. So you're a Christmas Day baby.
Yeah.
I was reading 1947.
Yeah, good year.
So tell us a little bit about your early life and growing up in Dunfermline.
Early life, my dad was Welsh, hence the Morgan. Came from Mountain Ash in Glamorgan. My mum's side, she was from Carndon, and my grandpa there is called William Blair Forsyth. It's called Old Will. Anyway, Forsyth, William Blair Forsyth. So they landed me with William Blair Forsyth Morgan, which is a pain in the backside. When people refer to your phone, you have to ask, hello, William, how are you doing today? They get stuck. You don't know me, obviously. So that's a mixture of my dad was in the army, moved around, he was a sergeant major, moved around a lot, and he retired when we were in Dunfermline and stayed, so that was fine. It was good for us, it was good for me.
Brilliant.
So that's a nice mixture. Funnily enough, John Toshak he's got a slightly different mixture. I think his dad must have been Scottish and his mum Welsh, or maybe I can't remember. And I acted for John, who was fantastic.
Did he not have links to Dunfermline?
Yes, aye.
Yeah.
His parents.
Yeah.
I think it was his dad or his mum. But I was Welsh. I was half Welsh, half Scottish. He was the same.
Yeah.
So we got on famously. I took John to a few places. He went to a Spanish club who were bottom of the league. And the Real Madrid director said, look, they're friends of ours, could you go and help them? So the last game of the season, Real Madrid needed to win the game against John's team to win the league, and John needed to win the game to stay up. So John's relegated, a team about to be relegated team didn't get relegated, they won the game, but stopped Real Madrid winning the league. And but these things happen in football. And John's a super bloke, very quiet. He almost came to Scotland. Big club in Scotland were interested, and I brought him over, and we met the club. But he decided against coming to Scotland. He felt that he's better in England, which indeed he was. And he continued his career in England.
Is that as a manager?
Oh yes, that's right. As a manager, not as a player. Yeah.
Right.
That was a long time ago, but so you forgive me if my memory starts to fade.
No, brilliant. He was a legend of the game, wasn't he?
Oh, great. I thought so. A great player, absolutely great player. You see, it's a lot of the documentaries that they've made is just tremendous.
You mentioned earlier, Blair, about going to Dunfermline games as a kid. So what's your memories of the Pars growing up and any other games? You mentioned the Partick Thistle one, for example.
Yes, I remember. That was one I remember. But I know I went, remember the Cup finals and a lot of the games. My dad took me, but my dad was a rugby man, you see, so he didn't. He took me. He decided I should be educated in the ways of football. But East End in those days with Charlie Dixon at centre forward, Harry Colville at centre back, Eddie Connican, who was I think best goalkeeper ever against Celtic in the cup final. He was absolutely magnificent, and I met him when I was on the board. He visited from South Africa, and I thought at the time he played, I thought he was 7 feet tall and 7 feet wide. And he came in and he was smaller than me. And I really shocked me. Yeah. But a nice man and a great player for Dunfermline. Ron Mailer was the captain on stage. He was really good captain. And I remember met him a lot of times when I was a kid. And he was a really good bloke. Trying to remember who else played then. There was a few of the guys who went on to play in the first team, but my brother-in-law was in the reserves, and he was a good centre back. He was actually very cultured, and he liked to pass and move the ball. In my limited football career, I would just hoof it, get it out the park, and I mind other stuff. But no, I went to most of the games. I remember go to the European games as well. Games against Everton, where the Everton manager wasn't there. He was away watching the team in the next round. And I couldn't believe that. And of course, Everton had the fantastic team of Welsh, Irish, Scottish, English,
the champions of England, I think.
Oh yeah, they were a great player, great players, and a really good team. And of course, the Pars beat them, and we beat a few top teams at that time. Although I think it was Everton game we scored a goal. It was so far offside. I don't know how they missed it, but who cares? You take it.
We'll take
it works both ways, doesn't it? So I know I went to all the games. Unfortunately, all my schoolmates were all Pars fans as well. So we used to stand at the Cowdenbeath end, and at half time wander around to the home end. So it was fine. So that got me totally hooked. But I went to school, and we got Jim or whatever PE teacher said, "Right, boys, stand over here if you want to play rugby." I didn't play rugby, right? "And stand over here if you want to go to detention." So what the hell was this? What's going on here? And in other words, the high school at that time only played rugby. There was no football. So I played rugby. Yeah. And people find that strange, but I played rugby. And when I went to university, I decided I would change it back to football again. But I didn't. I got entranced by the rugby team. I got into the first team, and the Edinburgh University had a great team at the time. They were second in the league. They almost won the league. And I was on the wing, and I had two international centres playing for me, John Frame of Scotland, Harry Ray of Ireland, which meant I scored a lot of tries. Didn't have to work for them, just had to run them in. And that was great. And also, it was, you get a wee bit, it was quite good, and you go to University Union, you play for the first team, and it was quite good. You got into that. So I played rugby, and then came back to Dunfermline and played rugby again. Yeah, they had a really good team in those days.
I noticed you won promotion with Dunfermline Rugby to Division 1 in 74.
We played in Division 1, yeah. Yeah.
That must have been a good achievement at the time.
At the time it was. And the funny thing is, now they're about Division 4, I think. And some of the young boys say, what was it like when you played? I said, well, we played Gala and Hoyk, West of Scotland, Heriots, and you're playing some Diddy team from the north of Scotland, but you have to bite your lip, not say too much, because it doesn't go down well.
No,
so I just, it was good, and I enjoyed it. But I played in the wings, so I was reasonably quick. So they just shuffled the ball out, had good centres. He just ran, so it was fine.
Nice.
I quite enjoyed it, and I played too long at a university, then back to Dunfermline, and I got hooked in. You get hooked into the social scene and the whole thing. Should have gone to football then, but where would I have played? I wasn't all that good at football. I wouldn't have played professionally, put it that way.
Yeah.
That was way above my pay grade. But I would have kicked a few people, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But there you go. So it was happy days, and that was and of course when I joined the board, it was, rugby man, what are you doing? I said, I didn't see you when I was at Eyemouth and Duns and Turnside. Yeah. That usually shut people up quite well.
Yeah. So speak about that. 1980s, you get appointed onto the board. You become the first solicitor to join the board since Leonard Jack in 1971.
Yeah.
So how did all that come about? How did the club approach you? Or
the club approached me through Jimmy Waters. And Jimmy said, it's time we had a couple of young boys on the board, and would you be interested? And I said, Jimmy didn't know the background. He knew I was a young lawyer in Dunfermline and with successful business in Dunfermline. And that was it. So he didn't know my background, that I was a Pars supporter from way back. And I said, I'd love to join the board. That would be great. And I have to say, the board at that time was older men, but it was great. It was great fun, and it was really quite knowledgeable. Jimmy Waters, a great bloke, absolutely fantastic bloke, and he knew football, and knew what he was talking about. And Doc Yellowlees, he was the chairman for a bit, and then Mel Rennie, loveliest man ever. Just give everybody their place and give them their. Let's hear what you have to say. I just loved my time on the board, I have to say.
Brilliant. And you're only in your 30s at this point. What was that like? You're still relatively young to join a football board.
I was quite young, but you don't think about that. And it was quite funny because Jimmy Waters said, "Oh, I really enjoyed the meetings, Blair. You could have a different opinion, but you didn't fall out with people." And I said, "Well, you're an opinion. You state it, and then the board vote on what was to happen." And I was quite pushy at the time about various things, and had various opinions. And I did have a football background, although the board eventually found that out, and. I maybe regretted me being there, but myself and Roy Woodrow joined the board at the same time, and Roy was good, and he was ambitious and hungry as well. Yeah. So we and Dunfermline had a great club, great facilities, and they really needed pushed along a wee bit.
The real potential, eh?
That's what I thought, and just push on and.
Yeah.
Used to love playing Celtic and Rangers, and especially if we could beat them as well, which we managed to do a few times. But it was great. I was out at Lauder or Fife College recently, a players do, and I met Davy Irons there, and remember saying to him, "We paid 85,000 quid for you. You must. I thought you'd be like Pelly or something." And he just laughed at me.
Some amount of money back then, though, eh? Even nowadays, we use a bit of money.
But Jim Leishman was convinced that he was the classy player that would make a difference to us. Jim was right. He was a football man. I never played, so to take his assurances on it. But I still thought it was a big fee at the time, so we must have sold somebody. I can't remember.
No, but Ian McCall to Rangers. Is that right about that time?
Yeah, Ian McCall. I signed with Jim, and Ian wasn't quite sure. He'd offers. I think he could have gone to places like Motherwell and Partick and what have you, because he was at Queen's Park at the time. He was an amateur at Queen's Park, and I think the deciding factor. I said, "You do know your signing on fee, Ian, will be tax free because you're getting it for giving up your amateur status." And he said, "I didn't know that." He said, "So I won't have to pay tax." I said, "No. It's for you." So he got a decent signing on fee, but nothing. For Dunfermline, it was a very cheap deal, and he was a super player. And of course, we sold him to Rangers for a very substantial fee.
Yeah,
that was quite entertaining as well, because Rangers kept upping the ante and upping the fee because he had a great game against them, and they were desperate to sign him, and. It was Roy and myself just said, "Well, just keep asking for more, Jim. Put it up." And Jim kept putting it up. I think Jim was getting embarrassed at the price. So I said, "Stuff it. They can afford it. They'll pay it, and that's it." So we got a really good fee for Ian McCall. That was quite good. It was one of the better deals, you can. And
I think the Irons. I think we signed 3 or 4 players off the back of that money coming in. And Irons was maybe part of that.
That might have been the case, because we paid a lot of money for. I have a feeling we paid £85,000.
You're right.
For David, and so it's a lot of money in those days.
You're right. You mentioned earlier Mel Rennie, Jimmy Waters, Jimmy McConville, all these legends in the club, really.
Great. Jim McConville was the Kelty postmaster. It was a great man. But I was a young upstart, a young whippersnapper, whatever. But Jimmy was great. He gave you your place and said, he was absolutely fantastic. He'd seen it all before, and we went off on the holiday a couple of times, end of the season with the players. That was great, absolutely. We'll not go into too many details, but I know one time there's a couple came to see Roy Woodrow and myself to complain of the noise. His bedroom is terrible. You can do something about it. I think they're your team. And we went and he said, who's in room, whatever it was, and it was Jimmy McConville. It was director and secretary of the club. But what I should say is what they'd done is they'd set a bar up and they said to players, look, before we go out tonight, come and have a drink and we'll have a get together and we'll go out. But the noise was pretty loud, so that was.
You got 20 footballers in a hotel room.
That's right. Imagine. Quite loud, and that was great. That was. I think that was the first trip we'd had away, and we're on that particular trip. There was a big steep slope at the back of the hotel, and I don't know what Jimmy McConville was doing, but he was at the top of the slope. And it was obviously taking in the view or something. And anyway, as he started to come down, he fell. And he gave himself a really sore one. There was blood gushing from his head. And Roy and myself came out and got him, and we got him into the hotel. And said, Roy, go and get the doc Yellies. And so Roy wanted to find him. In the meantime, another person came in and started to clean Jimmy up. And I said, what, are you a doctor? And he said, no, I'm a chiropodist. But he cleaned up Jimmy. And by the time the doc arrived, he was cleaned up. He was a bit better. And he was fine. And he just said, right, let's go to the bar and we'll get another drink. So I think that's what caused you to fall down the right slope. But
sounds like he was some character.
He was, but we played in France. We played Bordeaux. I knew the guys in Bordeaux, and some of the players who were a bit more inquisitive said, they've got 8 French internationals playing against us, so don't worry about that. It's all sorted, yeah. Get on in, you get on with it. And we did lose, but not by as much as the players thought. And but that was a great day out. We did lose by a few goals, and Mel got a phone call from the press saying, what was the score? And I said, tell them we won 2-1. We were playing it. We weren't even playing in Bordeaux. We were playing somewhere in France, in the middle of France somewhere. And so just tell them I won 2-1, and they'll write it. And the folk will go, that was a great score. And they had all these international players. And Jimmy said, I think he agreed to do it, but then when they got the phone call came, he said, "Oh, we got battered, 8-0."
Oh, I think it was 8-0.
They had a superb team, and they played in Europe. They won the French Cup, the French League, the superb team, and they took us to bit. So our guys were chasing shadows that day.
Was that the infamous trip where the travel plans were all up in the air? To get trains, buses?
I didn't go on that trip. I arranged to go to France, but I didn't actually go on the trip because I said at the beginning, I'm on holiday, I'll not be able to go, and I was really disappointed. But yeah, Pip Yates the physio does a great after dinner speech about trains and boats and planes, and it's the thought of the team in London and buses and the train down to Dover and whatever on the final part of the trip. I'm told, I wasn't there, I'm told that they got a train from Paris, overnight in Paris, and got a train down to Bordeaux. And Didier Kouakou, the sporting director of Bordeaux, was at the platform waiting for them to arrive. And he said, your directors, they were all pissed. What can we say? I said, oh, right. And when I arrived slightly later, and he said, we brought 6 or 8 bottles of whiskey to give to the visiting directors. They said, but we drank most of them on the train on the way down. I said, I heard about that. Because I think when the train arrived, somebody fell out the train. But, so that was a good trip. But there's only 1 bottle of whiskey left, so I think they gave it to the president, and that was it. I just, maybe a week later, and the place was very quiet. The players were very quiet. So they had been misbehaving, and the directors were even quieter, so they'd been misbehaving. So, there we go.
The directors were worse than the players.
Well, they could sometimes.
I've heard from a few.
Aye, it could be. Aye.
Brilliant stuff. See, when you first joined the board, what was your role as a director? What did you kind of look after?
Just like the other directors, there's no specific roles given to us. But being a lawyer, I had strong views on various things. and legal matters were not a problem. And I got asked about players' contracts and signing players. So that I did a lot of that. It was all common sense stuff, most people could do that, yeah. You were signing a player Ian McCall, as I say, luckily we got the key to unlock that one was to say you won't have to pay tax on it.
Yeah.
And I always liked Ian, and he was a good player, he was a good winger who could beat a man and cross the ball. But I also like Mark Smith, who was, I think he was there. We must have sold Mark, I can't remember.
We sold Mark to Nottingham Forest.
That sounds like good. I wasn't involved in
Brian
that.
Clough.
I wasn't involved in it. But funnily enough, Brian Clough and Nottingham Forest were at Bordeaux when we were there, because my French director of football, Didier Kouyakou, said, Nottingham Forest, Brian Clough, they sit around the swimming pool all day. They don't, and they drink. They don't train. The Bordeaux trained every day, and I've trained very hard. And a lot of French international players, they said, no, Nottingham Forest, they just drink, and the manager orders the drinks. And yeah, it was quite funny. They had a fantastic training centre at Bordeaux, absolutely magnificent. And
they were miles ahead. Obviously, years later, Arsene Wenger coming into England, changed the dietary and the training. Yeah. They were probably doing that in the 80s, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And they took it very seriously, and they were very good at it. And the idea, some of our players at that time thought, training, got too keen on this, got a bit tired. I just maybe miss that. But I used to run. I did athletics as well as rugby, so I was used to training. And you train, and if you throw up, you just carry on and throw up later on. So I was quite happy. And Jim Leishman said, "Did I want to join in?" And I looked at it, and I was too old. But I said, "No, I'm not too interested." But and Jimmy Waters was great. He joined in, but he was a goalkeeper, remember? So
yeah, was he Hearts?
Yeah, he was a Hearts goalkeeper.
Yeah,
as he was a lovely man. I used to nip into Giacomo's and have a chat to him and have a cup of coffee and a Blair. Great bloke, great,
brilliant.
But that was Jimmy. But no, the board were older men, but they were characters and seen life, and they were great to talk to and listen to. And they were well suited to the club at that time. Of course, the complaint that I was maybe too ambitious. And I said, well, I don't know if we'll reach the Premier League, but it's got to be your ambition is to get there. And we did, of course, get there.
Yeah.
Eventually. And, it's funny. Some of the directors thought I was too ambitious, but I wasn't ambitious for myself. It was for the club, really,
of course,
and for the supporters, and it worked very well for a while. It went very well. So that was great.
Good memories.
Yeah, very happy memories. Yeah.
Talking about good memories, I want to take you back to February 1986, and you have this great idea about the club recording a song. Tell us how all this come about.
It wasn't my great idea. It was any number of people said it's our centenary, 85. And that's when I joined the board. I think it was 84.
December 84.
84.
Yeah.
And I was invited to the centenary dinner. And I remember that. Anyway, and a lot of folks said, EastEnders, a great TV. And that. We're EastEnders as well. We should do something about it. And of course, one of the things I did in the law practice, I did for a lot of bands. I did not a lot of music work, but enough to the local bands, Nazareth, Big Country. I was at primary school with Barbara Dixon, but a lot of folk don't know that. But I don't remember her, to be honest. I was told up by somebody else, and I've got a school picture that shows her in the same picture. And so Dunfermline had a fantastic music background at the time, and the football club were doing well, and it was our centenary, and then talking about EastEnders, and a lot of folk were saying, we should do something. And I thought, well, the theme, I didn't particularly like it, but I think it was very memorable. You know, the theme song to the. So I thought, why don't we do a record? And of course, the other directors are going, "Oh, get stuffed." And I said, "No, like, we can do this. I'll do it. I'll organise it. You don't have to do anything." Okay, fine. So I wrote to the publisher and said, "Look, we want to change the words and record the record." And they said, "Yeah, fine, carry on. We got permission. No problem." There was no argument. And I sat down in the house with my son, was a youngster at the time, but is now he's now getting up there. He's 50-ish. And he's a doctor, but he's a psychiatrist now. Anyway, and we wrote the words. So we are the boys from East End Park. We've been on the go for 100 years, and so we wrote the words. And it took me. I have to say, we're the team in black and white. I was saying, I need something to rhyme with black and white, and Stephen said, and we're getting it right. I said, well, I was thinking of something else that rhymes with black and white, but we'll not go there. And so we wrote the words, and then as I acted for the lads in Nazareth, and Dan McCafferty was a really strong Pars fan, and they said, "Oh, we'll help you in. And we'll sing." And then the Sods were away on tour. We had to record it. They were away. And but there was enough of guys around, and the guys that played in bands locally, who were really good. Without them, we would have struggled. They were good singers, and they kept the thing. And we got the record made, and got it put out there. We printed a few thousand, and we sold them into film. And
4,500 copies.
Was it 4,500? Oh,
yeah.
I found
incredible, really.
And we had to print more though, because there's folks looking for them as mementos. As Ken Forbes, who was an art teacher at high school, did the design, which was great, and I knew people with companies that did these things, and they made them, and they did the record. And with one Saturday in the High Street in Dunfermline, I think we sold out.
Yeah,
it was great.
Right.
It was great. It was great fun. I enjoyed doing that, and but it was all it fitted. You know, the whole thing. It was our centenary. We're EastEnders. I mean, and it worked really well.
It was great publicity. Yeah,
it worked really well.
Talking of which, Pebble Mill.
Trip
to Birmingham.
We went down to Pebble Mill. Magnuson, I think, was there, and I had met Magnus through a client. And when we arrived, he said, "Blair, how are you?" He came across and gave me a curl, and the guys are all looking, and I'm going. So I met him once before, but so that was it. But there's a couple of guys in the team didn't make the recording. I think John Watson might have been one of them.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It had been naughty the night before.
Stevie Morrison, I think, as well, had been banished.
You're talking about early memories. A memory of, I thought Stevie Morrison took a great free kick and great penalty. He never missed. Except he did at Alloa when we had to score the penalty to get promoted, and he missed it. He wouldn't take it. He refused to take it, and nobody in the team would take it. And the captain's trying to get something to take the penalty. And I'm standing on the terrace in the Alloa with my sons, and come on, Stevie, take a penalty. And he took it, and I can't remember if it was saved or he just missed.
Yeah.
But that the pressure was on him, because I think we had to win that game to get promoted. And anyway, we didn't win it, so that was that. That was Stevie. But I don't remember. A few of the guys missed the actual recording, and of course we arrived at the studio, and they said, "Now we've got this all organised, and we've got the orchestra lined up to play the song. What key is it in?" I don't know. F or B flat, something. I don't know what it was. And I'm saying, but we brought a tape, a backing track, and we're just going to sort of sing or mime to it. Because, and they said, "Oh, no, the Musicians Union will not allow that. You have to sing it live." And I said, "For goodness sake, this could be a problem." And I said to the team, you've got to sing this, boys. Boy, fine, right, no, they weren't bothered. And there was a wee speaking bit, and they said, well, you'll have to speak. And I said, I wrote the words, but I said, I'll not remember them. I can't remember them. So I had to write the words, and I had to read the words as well. And it went off okay. So we got through it. But still, I can't believe that. I think they did that. It was 1 year that they insisted that the musicians union had said, no, the musicians must be there to play it live. And somebody said, how can you remember the words? You wrote them. I said, I know that, but I was nervous. The first thing that Magnusson said to us was in the studio, he said, now, don't worry, our numbers are down. There's only 3.5 million watching this today. Could be. It was a huge number of people. It was certainly more than would be at East End Park on a Saturday. And so I was a bit nervous. And then after the match, we went to Aston Villa.
Yeah, you done a training session at Aston Villa, eh?
I not personally, no.
No.
I know what you mean. Yeah, they had fantastic facilities quite close by. There's a fantastic golf course there as well. And I don't know if Alan Evans was at Aston Villa.
He was.
I think he was, And
through Alan Evans' gym.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have been. That would be the connection. And I remember the guys training. I didn't train. I just had a cup of tea and watched. And so that was it. It was a great trip, and it helped bond the team as well. Though they were all good blokes. They all enjoy each other's company, and so that was a good outing. And that was a centenary. That was 85. Yeah,
85. Yeah, we won promotion that year to the first division.
Yeah.
Everything seemed, that was kind of the start of the whole roller coaster and heading up the way. Because we then, the following season, get promotion to the Premier League for the first time. So what's your memories of going up to the Premier League? And obviously the crowds are going up, the club's going up.
Yeah, the club was in a really good state at the time, and Jim was a great PR guy. I mean, he got the fans, the players, everybody pulling in the same direction, and it was a successful time for the club, and as it should have been. I mean, we had good facilities, we had a good team, good crowds, great crowds. So I enjoyed it, and I was young enough as well to still be quite fit and healthy. And I remember that the trip we had later on abroad to France, the guy said, "Come and join in." And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, I was just a little bit over the hill. Now I'm a big bit over the hill. and I was about to do it, and I thought, because I'll go and run these guys, and I realised, it's all in your brain, it's all in your history is finished. But because I was quite quick in running, so I could have given them a fright, but maybe not. So I didn't follow through with these things. But the club was in a good, happy days, the winning, would play anybody and hope to win, expect to win.
Yeah, we started that Premier League season really, really well. I think we won 4 or 5 games unbeaten. We beat Celtic.
Yeah.
And that season as well, we spoke about it in the past, but again, forward thinking from the board about having their own training ground in the Eagle Glen project. Must have been really exciting at the time to secure that.
And I started to play golf, or learned to play golf, when I went up to Eagle Glen. I was like, what a fantastic facility, and so handy. And I thought it was underused for folk hitting a golf ball, which I went up to do. And Eric Brown was the professional, the famous Eric Brown, played in the Ryder Cup. And he taught me to play golf. Well, he taught me to hit a ball off from the driving range, and then I didn't continue. But I'll go back to that when I'm a bit older. But so that I thought was absolutely perfect. And spoke to Jim Leash, and Jim said, "Oh, it's a great thing for the club to have their own training ground." And so we converted it. It was quite funny as well, because we said we'll have if you remember, there was a lounge and a different areas that they had, the building, and I said, well, the important thing is we need a dressing room. And at one stage we were going to play reserve games up there, so right, we need a couple of dressing rooms and showers and whatnot. But the place was made for that. That all done, and the pitch, where the golf balls were landing, wasn't great, and we needed drainage done, and there was serious problems with drainage, and we got drainage put in, and we got the thing. It was quite a good setup there. And I went up once. There's the burglar alarm had gone off, and I remember going up, and I was driven by somebody. One of my friends drove me up because I had been drinking, and I thought, I can't drive. And they said, right, there's a code to cancel the alarm. And I made the code. I can't remember what it was because of my state. Anyway, the police arrived, and they said, can you know the code? I said, I've forgotten it. And they looked at me, and I said, and I had a guess, and I got it right. So the police went in. They thought there'd been a break-in. I don't think there had, but they'd just gone off. But no, Eagle Glen was great. That we didn't maximise that, because I think I left the board at that time, and it didn't. Maybe it was my baby, I don't know, but it should have been pushed on, and I'm delighted that now Rosyth, they seem to be made a good job of that. So, and you need a training ground, and it brings a team together, and the whole setup is professional setup is right to have a training ground, and the players did enjoy it. I remember at the time they enjoyed going up there, and the gym got somebody to make sandwiches or food for them. They all enjoyed that, and
it was quite ahead of its time, like you're saying there, Rosyth. So we're now 40 years on.
Yeah.
And the club's now trying to do the same as what you guys were doing in the mid-80s.
Yeah. I think I'd left the board when Eagle Glen was sold. The Telecoms bought it at the time. And I think the money was very useful, I think, to invest in the stadium. I think to make it, to contribute towards making it all seated, all covered, which we had to do to go back into the Premier League. Yeah. So it also served at that purpose, but without that we wouldn't be able to do that. So it worked fine. I was quite happy with that. But I mean, some folk maybe thought I was a young upstart, and I wasn't. I was a Pars fan, and you use what skills you have, and the guys that were at the end of the season, beginning of the season, guys that would go in, whether they were brickies or plumbers or whatever, metal workers, would do whatever they could, and I did what I could as well. So you'll contribute what your skills are. Yeah. My skill sets were limited, but there was a certain area, but brilliant. So that was the Eagle Glen was fine. Of course, there's now houses on that, which I have to be honest, since I foresaw that at the time, I thought it's a great fallback of build houses. Yeah. Which is, as I say, what happened.
There you go. And, before we touch on the club in the Premier League towards the end of the 80s, I want to mention a player. You've told me a story before about Gary Riddle.
Yeah.
How close were you with Gary Riddle?
Well, Gary bought a house down the Nore, and then it used to be the old college, I think.
Yeah,
and
right.
So I knew Gary, and he did that, and I visited him in the house to make sure he got settled in. He was the most tidy guy you could ever imagine. He had shirts or jackets all hang up all perfectly, and embarrassed me, but a lovely guy. But I didn't know Gary any better than some of the other players in the team. Nore and John, I knew because they bought pubs in the town. Yeah. And I helped them along the road there and that. And you got to know the players in the club. But I know Gary was a nice, quiet lad. He was fit as a fiddle as well, really fit. Came from Aberdeen. I think they're a very professional outfit up there. So that was a really, really sad time.
Did you not have to deal with his house or property, or take his medal up to his parents or something after he passed?
Yeah, I had to. I dealt with his parents asked me to deal with the sale of the house, which I did, and we dealt with that, and But yeah, that was a low spot along with Nore McCarthy, and of course going back was John Lunn. Just dreadful, you know. But football teams are same as any other employer. You these things happen, you know, and you have to deal with them and get on with it.
It just galvanises everyone together again, doesn't it?
It did.
Things happen.
But you not wanted it to be done that way, but there we are. So
after Gary sadly passed, we're back in the Premier League. The club's on the rise, big time. And you're bringing the likes of George O'Boyle and Isfan to the club. So tell us a bit about all that.
We couldn't have brought them if I hadn't been in the Premier League, but obviously I made the connection with Didier Kouyakou, who I have to say he was fantastic for Dunfermline. Was because he was, I think the word is a Scotophile. He loved Scotland. He was striker for France, and he played in the World Cup in '66, and they stayed at Peebles Hydro, and Didier fell in love with Scotland. He loved shaggy dogs. He loved 4x4 cars, and it just the whole thing about Scotland. He said, when I retire, I will come to Scotland. It's my home. It's where I should be. I said, very good. So, but anyway, and I became very friendly with Didier. I lost his society visit to Bordeaux, and he came to the hotel and said, I believe there's some lawyers in here. And I said, yes. I said, I am the sporting director of Girondins de Bordeaux. And I said, all right. But whoever was organising the trip knew I was the director of Dunfermline, so I introduced us, and that was it. And that was the start of the relationship with Bordeaux, which was six. But Didier was fantastic, and he came to Scotland most years, most summer holidays, and I go hill walking, and I borrow a dog, and I drive and I said, fine, on you go, sir.
Wear a kilt ripped while you're at it.
He just loved that whole thing, and then of course I persuaded him to bring Bordeaux over to play the game.
We are Flow Digital Pharmacy, and we are proud to sponsor the Walking Down the Holbeath Road podcast. Our easy-to-use app is a convenient way to access your NHS prescription medication, and our team of trained pharmacists are helping thousands of people to access the support and medication they need. If you're registered with a GP who's based in England, you can use the Flow app to securely and conveniently send them NHS medication requests and arrange delivery to a location of your choice at a time that suits you. This means you can avoid the hassle of contacting your GP and making unnecessary round trips to eventually collect your prescription. Find out more at weareflow, spelled PHLO, that's weareflow.com.
He told me in confidence, we have one player who's very naughty. I will make sure we lock his door. He cannot get out of his bedroom at night because he's a bad person. I thought it was a great person, but anyway, the guy did whoever it was got out the bedroom window in the hotel. The King Malcolm was staying. They got out the window and disappeared up the town. What he did, God only knows. So, but Didier said, I think you knew he did that. I said, well, I'd heard, but he didn't do any damage. You're okay. And the reputation of Bordeaux was not damaged in any way. Okay. So Didier, a good lad. He invited myself and Joe, my wife, to semi-final of the European Cup. They were playing a Dutch team, either PSV Eindhoven or Ajax. And he was an amazing realist. He said, we lost 2-0 in Holland, so the game was over. I said, but you can win, you can score 3 goals. No, we've lost. I said, I can't believe it. You've given up. Come on. But he invited us. We had dinner with all the other visitors and they're not the boardroom. It was a big area, and it was great. We had a great meal, and then Joe and I stayed over and went to a game on the Saturday, and they were playing. It was funny because the team they were playing, Maurice Johnson was playing. The French team was at Auxerre. He moved
Marseille?
No, it wasn't Marseille.
No.
I can't remember. It was another team, anyway, a French team, and I just said hello to him in passing, and he said hello, bye. That was it. End of conversation. And but Didier was a really interesting person. But it's his love of Scotland that reinforced the whole thing, you know. And he phoned me to say they have changed the rules in France. We're only allowed to play, I think it was 2 foreigners. And he said the problem is my president is an idiot. I said, oh, right. He said, my president, he wants to play these 2 Germans, and they said they're not good enough for us, but he wants to play them, so I have some players that are spare, that they can't play, and there's no point in having them. So we have a very good Hungarian midfield player, would you be interested? Well, we had to pay a transfer fee, and I said, well, I'll speak to the board. So we had a board meeting, and it's funny. The board said, no, I can't do that. And I said, you get money back and gate receipts. You'll get an extra 1,000 people on the gate, and that will be enough to pay this, that, and the other. Oh, jing. Anyway, I nagged him, and I can be a real pain in the butt. And, you know, try different, if that doesn't work, try a different angle and say, think of the games are great, it'll be super, and publicity for the club, so eventually, Mel was great. Mel was the chairman, and he agreed fairly quickly. He probably thought, oh, just leave me alone, go and annoy somebody else. And I did some, and eventually, I had no problem. Roy was on side immediately. But I somewhere to really push quite hard, and we agreed to buy him and pay transfer fee, which we did. And he added the gates. Our gate went up immediately. We did that. I think it's the games against Hearts I loved, and we're playing Isvan one side and Georgia Bell. I know he played up front, but he also played wide. And the two of them, it was great. It was great.
Ross Jack in the middle.
Ross Jack in the middle, who was
tremendous.
He scored goals, especially at Parkhead, I remember well. But I've got my phone. I've got Ross Jack. I've got Jack Ross, which is paid in the backside. Jack Ross was a good friend of my son-in-law's. And he took John to Sunderland as his assistant. And so anyway, but Ross Jack, I got to know quite well too.
Brilliant.
When he was at Bridge of Allen at the sort of Scottish, they started in the academy. And it was funny because Ian Munro, who I liked a lot, and I got on really well with Ian, we shared a lot of views and things. And I said, why would not get some of these kids? They're great. They're being trained. They're full time, and you know, it'd be good for us. And why don't we put some of our kids there as well to improve them? And Ian was opposed to that. Rod Jack was in charge. I said, we've got a way right in. We'll get the best of them. And as it was, they were, you know, where they were going? Falkirk.
Right.
The best kids from there went to Falkirk, and they helped Falkirk a lot. And Ian, he just made them better runners. We want footballers. I said, yeah, you want footballers who can run, who are fit, who are sharp, and the skills they'll get will only help them as players. And anyway, Ian, who I like a lot, just not having that, not doing it. Wouldn't, and out at Bridge of Allen, it would have worked.
It's only 30 minutes up the road.
Well, that's right. We've got some good kids, but that wasn't to be. As some players later on that I discovered had been there. Dundee United were happy to use it, and I think St Johnstone maybe.
Missed opportunity, yeah.
I thought so, but anyway, yeah, it's right.
There we go.
You can't get too involved in the playing side, you know. As a rugby man, you're just a rugby player, Morgan. Hey. So very good. So a lot of the same things apply. You know, somebody is a quick acceleration or whatever. The skills they've got, whatever skills they have, you use it. But anyway, so that's one that got away.
Yeah.
Which I was quite disappointed in, I have to say.
Well, the club had a good season. I think we finished 8th, but only 4 points off the top 4 that season. But you spoke about Ian Munro. I want to touch on the summer of 1990.
Oh.
And quite a monumentous moment in the club's history with Jim Leishman stepping down as manager. So tell us a bit about your memories of all that, how that came about, and that kind of time.
It came about probably one of the into background of it is I actually for a company called C.R. Smith, double glazing company, and I enjoyed Jerry Eadie's company, and I enjoyed some of his opinions on business. And one of his opinions on business was, that you find out what people do and use their skills to the best. And I thought, that makes sense. You've got people there. And Jim Leishman had skills with people. And Ian Monroe had skills, football skills, coaching skills. And to me, Ian was a good coach, and he was good in that area. Ian was doing a lot of it at the time, preparing the team for Saturday and watching other teams and with players and who'd train accordingly. Jim was fantastic with people and with supporters associations, with the media, all these things. And so I suggested to the board that we should use their skills to the maximum. And at the time, what we thought we would do is make Jim the managing director, and or director of football, as it became to be known later on. But and Ian would be the head coach. And the board did decide to do that. Jim said, "No, you want to continue in the role as football manager," and that was it. Ian really wasn't involved in these discussions. Jim would have been the first paid managing director the club had, and to be honest, I'm disappointed because I thought he would have been great. I mean, he's been great. He's been great at that job. That's what he did. He supporters clubs, opening shops, on the radio, all these things, given Dunfermline in a high profile. He was fantastic at that. The players used to say, I acted for a lot of players, and they said, "Oh, see, the television cameras are coming today. How do you know that, boys?" Well, Jim's away down to welcome them in and talk to them and all that, and get interviews and what have you. And he was great at that. He was good at promoting Dunfermline, and he was good with people. He was good with supporters. He would get round businesses. He could get people sponsorship deals and what have you. And the club proposed that. It went big time a squiff in terms of a lot of people thought we were firing, and Jim, we weren't. Jim was offered the first full-time paid role at the club, and we recognised what he did, and we wanted to go along that way. Probably me more than some of the others, I have to be honest, but it didn't work out, so we just carried on as before. Just carry on.
It must have been a difficult period, obviously, on the back of that. There was all the protests and a lot of fans really angry, stopped going to the games, and a lot of abuse directed at yourself.
Yeah,
How did you and your family cope?
Well, I coped all right. It didn't bother me too much. People are entitled to their opinion. I couldn't give a top me tosser. And, I mean, the only time there was actually one of my, I've got 3 daughters, one of my daughters' birthday party were here in this house. And, there was folk outside the house. My mum was here. My mum said, "Son, you're not a banker. You're a lawyer there." And I said, "Fine, Mum, you're right. Let's carry on the birthday." And so you get what they were saying. And it wasn't very pleasant, but it didn't bother me too much because I thought we're doing the right thing, and wasn't going to, you knew what happened, it wasn't going to work. And we weren't about to take on our own supporters and other people. And so we just, no, fine, Jim, carry on. That's fine. And it was not, Jim wasn't doing anything wrong. It was, we wanted to maximise his skills. Yeah. And to this day, I still think he would have been a great managing director or director of football or whatever. Yeah. He would have been, and I said to him, "Jim, when the day comes, you'll be the guy that will sack Ian Monroe." and you get his replacement, and that's what we want, because you understand what's required of the job, and all these things didn't work, and the fans made it clear they didn't see it as a possibility. But Jim was so popular, of course, with all these areas, because that's what he did. He got around people, and it was fine. It wasn't the end of the world, so we carried on as before.
Yeah,
and
Monroe took over, didn't he?
Ian was doing it anyway, but I mean, it's
quite a tough period after that for the club. It was 2 or 3 quite rocky seasons with then Jockey Scott, and then Bert and Dick eventually came in.
Jockey Scott, the things had changed at the club there. Roy was the chairman and I was the vice chairman, and we appointed Jockey Scott, who's quite a dour character, but we thought he was a good football man, and he did okay, but didn't work out, sadly. But a football club's ups and downs and roundabouts, and I've obviously no problem. Most of my pals are Par supporters, so they would give me their opinion as well, and I say, I think you got your opinion, I've got mine. Yeah, and that was it. So, but I can't remember after Jockey, who did we go?
Bert and Dick.
Yeah, we actually we interviewed. Roy and myself interviewed, and we interviewed Bert, and we probably didn't think he was going to be the right man. But during the interview, Roy and I looked at each other. Bert interviewed magnificently. He was a real Dunfermline person, and he was just great. And he also had the hunger to do it. He wanted to do it, and he totally persuaded us. Totally. We bought into him, and he was great. And he was, and Dick as well. Of course, Dick was quite a character, and that was the route we went, and we were really happy because obviously Bert's a real Dunfermline hero from the past, and continued to be so, and he tells great stories, of course, about when he was, I think his wife was from Leeds, and they came up, and anyway, a great manager, and Roy and I were delighted we got somebody that everybody liked.
It proved to be a good appointment. Good time as manager, didn't he?
Aye.
Well, you stayed on the board for 10 years. You resigned in November 94. So just on reflection, how do you sum up your time as a director at the Pars?
Oh, loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, any supporter who gets the chance to join the board, take it. It was great. Because, we've heard the last incident, but you can try and influence what the shape and direction of the club and what it's doing, and the things come along. You would hardly believe that it come along, but I used what skills I'd learned in business as a lawyer. I was involved probably more with players' contracts than other directors were. But the club was reasonably successful. But you win, you lose, ups and downs, you know that at the club. And Dunfermline went through, the time I was on board, we went up 2 or 3 times, I think we got promoted.
Yeah.
Because I remember when Dunfermline were in the second division, the bottom division, which was the third, the old division anyway, and I remember that. I remember one game, and I'd not long joined the board, and we played Meadowbank Thistle across there. And the papers were reporting that there'd been a fight in our dressing room. And I said, Jim, surely that's not right. No way. And he said, aye, that's right. There was a fight in the dressing room. And I said, well, all right, okay. He said, but I sorted it. I said, that's fine, good. It's sorted. And, but it leaked out somehow, and I can't remember who it was, but there was a wee bit of aggro somewhere in the but that's going to happen at teams,
You mentioned earlier you dealt a lot with the player contract side of things, obviously with your legal background.
Yeah.
Was there any players we tried to sign that maybe got away? Is there any that spring to mind that we're disappointed we didn't see him in a Dunfermline jersey?
I did deal with players' contracts, but in fairness, we knew some players that we couldn't get because we just weren't prepared to. And it wasn't just whether we could afford it or not. There's some we could maybe stretch. But even when we signed this fan, we had a wee revolution. Some of the players saying, "Well, he's getting something," and I said, "What is it you heard?" And of course, the figure gets inflated. And I said, "No, he's not getting that." And then he got a car. I said, "We didn't give him the car. It was over the garage in town that were doing it to get coverage." So you get things like that, and you just have to deal with them. But certainly the time I had on the board, that was 10 years, was great. I just loved it, and I did learn some skills as a lawyer, and players' contracts. Yes, I did them. Jim could be a wee bit of a nightmare. You had to try and keep him out of the road when it came to contracts. But he was great to get the enthusiasm to get players to come to us, I'll make you an international player, son, or whatever.
Yeah.
And, so overall, I loved my 10 years, but then I was invited to leave the board by the secretary of the SFA, and I didn't. And then he phoned me again. What is it you don't understand about you can't represent players and be on the board? And I realised the guy wasn't going to leave it alone, and I had no choice. I had to
is that just a conflict of interest then?
Yeah, the rules are quite clear, and I knew that. And I said, I know the rules. I will never get involved in a conflict of interest. I'll walk away. But they said, no, you can't be a director and be a licensed agent. Okay. So eventually I had to stand down, which was very sad. I was very unhappy. Maybe some people at the club were happy. I don't know. But my heart was always in the right place. But I don't know. I loved my 10 years on the board, I would have to say.
How did it impact on your family? Did you give obviously 100%? How much time did you have to dedicate to doing a voluntary role?
It wasn't too bad time-wise. I did spend a lot of time, but so did other directors spend a lot of time at the club. And I used to try and look in at lunchtime most days, see what was happening. You need me for anything? No, I'm away, that's fine. In terms of players' contracts, and any other legal documentation, I found that it was easy, it was straightforward. You show me a contract, I'm quite happy. I'll sit down and read it. Whereas most people go, oh, it's 127 pages, I'm not going to read that. I say, you have to read it. And by the way, make sure you do pages 125, 126, and 127. That's where they hide the rubbish.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoyed that and enjoyed my time. I was quite fortunate, I suppose, that some of the older directors, Doc Ellis, Jimmy Waters, had been in the board a long time, and they wanted young men to come and drive it on. And I think they were happy to let you do it. They wouldn't let you do anything stupid, but if, they would say, maybe that's not going to work here, But Roy and myself enjoyed our time. We had a great time, and then at the end of the season, and I don't know if we started it, but we went off with the players, went on holiday, and they were great. I was in Tenerife last week, and I remember I said to Jo, my wife, we'll go past the hotel. I remember we stayed there with the team, and all right, and if players getting thrown in the pool, and that's what you would do. And I remember was somebody getting thrown in and got their watch on, and got my watch on. Too bad.
I heard that was Jimmy McConville. The boys had thrown him in the pool and he had his watch and all that on.
You know who it was? It was actually, that's terrible, Jackie Kyle.
Right. And the general manager at the time.
Jackie took over, who'd been a really good goalkeeper, and he knew how to deal with people in football business. He was really good. And the players threw him in. Mind you, at first time we went away, I just young director, and Jim was, don't throw me in. Jim was, I can't throw me in. The players, sometimes, no, we'll not throw him in then. And I thought, stuff it. And he threw him in, and Jim, that was just what Jim wanted. And as he surfaced, he swam, Waved to everybody, just what he wanted. That was our first trip. That was, I think that was to Mallorca.
It was Magaluf, I think.
Magaluf, I think it was.
Good times, I'm sure.
Other trips were great. Players, it was great. You chat to players, about this, that, and the other. But and there was a few things that will never come out as well about some of the players. And I had to do some legal work when I got back. There was a couple of players. He said, "Fine, look, these things happen. I'll just get on with life." But no, you get a happy club, a successful club, because I know at one stage the club, we're down in the bottom division and not doing very well. And this is a big club. We're a big club it can be again. And a lot of that, Jim Leishman, down to Jim. So I like Jim. I always liked him. I thought he had talent and it qualities that the club needed. And I didn't think as a management was his best contribution, although he was good, he was successful as a manager. But I think if he was honest with himself, I think he would his dealing with people was his talent, and that was quite obvious. But and Ian was absolutely. I think Ian was last time I heard. I think he's back, but he went to America.
Yeah, he's back in Edinburgh now, I heard.
Is it? Aye. I met him at sort of one of the games, because obviously I just sit behind where the board is, but also where the ex-players are. And Ian had a different approach to football from Jim. For Jim, it was about people, and it's quite right. It is about people, whereas Ian was about football and about this. And I thought they worked together quite well, but I don't think they did, to be honest, because I think they had a slight clash of characters and personality, but which is a shame, because they both had a lot to offer. But I
spoke to Ian McCall last month, and he said it's one of the biggest regrets in his career that combination didn't work, because he thought if it had worked, the club could have seriously gone somewhere. That was his opinion on it.
I think 100% right. I think it could have worked, but I could see it wasn't working, and tried to change it, and that didn't work. And it's simple, you have to give people what they want. Our fans want Jim, fine. And you say, look, set Jim, we know he's got certain weaknesses, he's got a lot of strengths. Ian Monroe was all football. Serious, really serious. You never get a joke out of Ian, but I liked Ian, and he was away looking at the team we're playing next week, or he was looking at young players to bring in, because I don't think our youth structure was at all right, and I tried to do something with that as well. But there's a few things that I was regarded by some people as an incomer and Johnny come lately, which wasn't quite right. It wasn't quite fair, but I can understand why people would think that, and some people as well were surprised if I talk about Corsie Primary School and Dunfermline High School. I'm local. I know what goes on, and what I know what Dunfermline's about. And but
I suppose with these kind of controversial decisions, fans just look for someone to blame, don't they?
Aye. Well, yeah, that's right. I can totally understand it. Jim is so popular, a good guy, popular, and as I say, I followed I shouldn't say too much, but I did follow the C.R. Smith route. What are people's talents? What do you actually do? There's no point if you've got a salesman who's working on the tools, or vice versa. You've got to use people for their skills, and that's something I learned, and it didn't really work at the football club. But having said that, we still did quite well, and got a lot of success, which was great.
Brilliant. Well, moving away from Dunfermline, we've mentioned it throughout. You were a FIFA licensed agent. So how did that come about?
A lot of players asked my opinion on contracts and things, and that got more and more to the extent that the player, I've got possibility of a move, I need somebody to help me. At the time, I was an agent. The other agents were all salesmen. I thought being a lawyer was perfect, absolute perfect, because what you're dealing with is contracts, and I'm comfortable dealing with contracts, and that's what I did, and so I got into that. There was an agent in England called Dennis Roach, who's dead now, but Dennis wanted somebody in Scotland. He said, Blair, could you help me with various legal problems? I don't know how I first got in touch with him, but anyway, he got in touch with me, and Dennis said, right, fine. Invited Joe and myself to a charity do in London. We went down to that, and sitting at the table were Dennis's clients. There's people like the English manager at the time, Glenn Hoddle, ex-player Chelsea, Spurs, Mark Haley, which was at came to Rangers. There's 5 or 6 players you would know them immediately. Top names, top players that he acted for, and so and he wanted me, could I deal with Rangers and deal with Scottish things, which is absolutely no problem. Trying to remember, there's somebody at Rangers. It was Gordon Jury. He asked me to help Gordon with something, which I did. Gordon then bought a house in Doggate Bay. Don't know if he's still there. But
I think he's through the West now.
He's moved. That's a problem. I've been retired a few years now. I knew the lecture that I have given on use people for their strengths. I knew one of my weaknesses was I didn't play football. I didn't have that connection. So I decided the business was going well, and they said, right, I better take somebody on. And my first business partner was Steve Archibald.
Right. Ex-Scotland International,
who just left East Fife, I think.
He was manager. Yeah, player manager, I think.
Aye. And he very opinionated, Steve. And but one day we did a lot of work together, and he was, for a football player, he was very efficient and on the ball, knew what he was doing. But he rubbed people out the wrong way sometimes. He wouldn't hesitate to say, "What you tell me? What did you do?" You could have said to me, "Who did you play for?" Dunfermline Rugby Club. So anyway, but he lacked that one skill to get people on side, and he phoned me to say when he was at Spurs. The manager was
Terry Venables?
Terry Venables, yeah. And he phoned me to say, Terry's just been offered the job at Benfica. And I said, that's fine, good. And he said, but he can't take it. He won't take it. There's reasons he won't take it. He says, what about Graham Souness? Graham's perfect for it. And he's just been sacked at Torino or wherever he was. And I said, what do you say? He said, well, he gave me Graham's number, and I phoned Graham, and Graham said, oh, aye, I fancy that. No problem. So that was the sort of thing that Steve Archibald had, these connections with international players, and Graham was at Benfica for a good couple of years, 2 or 3 years. And that finished, it was actually quite funny, because he got sued by the chairman of Benfica, sued him in the High Court in London for defamation. Because and I said, Graham, did you say he was a rotten cheating bastard? Whatever it was. And Graham said, I did. I said it. I meant it, and I'll prove it. And I thought, great. It was absolutely straight down. Yeah. And he actually did. The president of Benfica ended up going to jail over. He was land round the stadium was being sold to his son, who was a developer, who was then selling it on.
But corruption,
naughtiness, and so that was Graham. So and Steve, but then Steve was offered a job, I think maybe even at Benfica. He was offered a job as director of football at a club that we'd been dealing with. And I said, if you want to take it, Steve. Look, that's what I armed. So then my next partner in the business, who was just retired from Rangers, was Trevor Stephen. So I got to know Trevor quite well. And Trevor is actually, he wasn't better than Steve in terms of football connections and knowledge, but his personality was, he was a people person, and you would like him. You talk to him, and you say, he's a good bloke. And of course, he had Everton connections in there, and he played for England. He took one of the penalties. He said it was the worst thing in his life to take a penalty in one of these shootouts they had in the World Cup. And he said he was hoping for a very modest heart attack rather after taking the penalty, which he took. But he's a nice guy with great connections, which, so that worked really well. And, just meandered on through Europe and through England and Scotland over the last few years, but I've wound down a lot. I retired from the practice. One of my daughters is now the senior partner, which is fine. It works well, and because the firm is reasonably well established, so she's driving on, and I'm back at East End Park taking grandsons. So there's about 4 or 5 of them. They're all taller than me now. Every one of them is taller than me. The other person that refuses to leave me, refuses to go elsewhere, is Alec McLeish. And Alec phones up regularly to have a chat about this, that, and the other, and do what have you. But he's been offered a lot of things down south, but he's not taken them. They haven't suited him. He's based in London now,
right.
Wimbledon, in fact. And but Alec's son John, he was doing some agency work, but he ran into a problem. He discovered the potential conflict of interest. So I don't know quite how he's dealing with that now. But anyway,
you've represented some superstars of the game. Who's the best to deal with?
Oh,
who did you really get on with and thought he's a top guy?
Oh, but all the top guys were top guys because how can you be an international football player that's played at the highest level, played in European Cup final or whatever, and you're dealing with some rugby player in Dunfermline? But they're not dealing with me because of that. They're dealing because I have my legal knowledge and I know contracts. I did a deal in South Africa. I helped as a goalkeeping coach, a Dutchman who I helped. And I got him a job at Aberdeen as a goalie coach because they needed one at that time. And he was fantastic. He's one of these guys. He would phone anybody and speak to anybody and get himself in, and he was really, really useful. And he was a really good guy to deal with. So he had a few people I could set sort of greyhounds or whatever, not greyhounds, go and sort of some
network.
Yeah.
You ever thought about putting these stories into a book?
I thought about it, but I couldn't.
Just from the legal side of it.
I was offered the opportunity to do that by a publisher, and some of the stories I can't repeat, and you wouldn't. And but the relationship I had with players was you're their advisor. I met. You remember who's the big tall guy centre back at Dunfermline? He died recently. Sol Bamba.
Sol Bamba, yeah.
I met when the club was going through its really tough times. Sol Bamba was very friendly with somebody I know who approached me to say Sol would like to buy the club. He'd made a lot of money in football. Of course, he sadly died. But I didn't meet Sol. I met his advisor, his person, and he was geared up to buy the club.
Wow!
But it didn't happen. So be it.
Yeah, tragic.
Aye. So,
in terms of your career in football, what would you say has been your proudest moment as a director or as an agent?
Oh. Well, totally separate, but as a director, obviously the club getting. I remember we went top of the league at Christmas one year, top of the Premier League, and that was fantastic. It's just to show that a wee team, a relatively wee club, could do that. But we had a good team, and Jim was good at bringing the players together. They were really close or tight, you know. So that was then as an agent. I'm just trying to think what the biggest deal was. I was quite lucky. I did quite a lot. I used to, just the other day I was thinking, I used to fly all the time, Edinburgh to, it was Brussels. It was a Belgium airline who went bust. Nothing to do with me. And I would fly there and link in and get to anywhere in Europe, which is, I travelled everywhere. And so the deals were all quite decent deals. They were worth doing, you know.
I'll ask you this one final question.
Sure.
What does Dunfermline Athletic mean to Blair Morgan?
Dunfermline Athletic is my home team, my home club. It's a team I always support no matter what. And I go there usually with my son and 3 of my grandsons. And I've passed the bug on to them, thankfully, because they need as many supporters as they can get.
Thanks for listening to Walking Down the Holbeath Road, and a big thank you to our latest guest, Blair Morgan. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favourite podcast platform. This podcast was produced by Jan Motkiewicz and music supplied by Stuart Dusty Miller. Thanks once again for listening, and we look forward to walking down the Holbeath Road once again next month.